and I may be saying her name wrong. I think it's Whitby, but she lives in I believe in either Detroit or East Lansing. And I'm gonna talk about a man from East Lansing this morning. Give you a little Black history as we get started. But again, there's no sense in us waiting any further. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The title for today is the title for today is preparation for greatness. You have not earned the right to quit because you may be living someone else's dream. Now, I've heard multi-level marketers say that. You know, you working for somebody else, you're working out their dream. That's not what I mean. What I mean is this. I became a lawyer personally. I became a lawyer for several reasons, but we'll talk about that later. When you look at what black folks had to go through just to get the privilege that I have today, I posted yesterday on my timeline that I weep sometimes because I look at the things that black folks have the right to do now, and I take for granted. Not anybody else. I take for granted. Black folks die for just thinking it, just wanting to do it. Now, I right after that I posted this part in Malcolm X autobiography where the teacher is telling Malcolm, and Malcolm at that time was top of his class. Malcolm at this time had got good grades in his class. And if you go to my timeline, you can read that synopsis. And he says, look, for a nigga, you have to find something that's realistic. It's unrealistic for you, Malcolm X, to be a lawyer. You need to be a carpenter. You're good with your hands and everybody likes you. And then he even tries to tell him this. Jesus was a carpenter, so you need to be a carpenter. Malcolm's dream was not to do what he did. Malcolm's dream was to be a lawyer. Other one, John Walker, the famous civil rights lawyer. He didn't want to be a lawyer. He wanted to be an engineer. And he got admitted to Texas. He has a name, John Walker. They thought he was white. He arrived down there in, I believe, 1959. And they found out he was black, and they de-admitted him, and he became a civil rights lawyer. My mother, I think both my mother and father may have wanted to be lawyers to some degree. I can still, to this day, I'm 38 years old, and I can't win an argument with my mother. And, you know, I argue for people's lives, but my mother still, you know, whoops me all over the place with an argument. My sister as well. But my point to you is, in what you're doing in life, you may not have earned the right to quit because so many people gave up so much stuff for you to earn that right. And as we deal with Black History Month, a lot of these folks for Black history did things that at the time could have caused them great pain or death to give you this opportunity. So you have not earned the right to quit on your dream yet because they died. And some of you, your parents died or lived and died so that you can have these particular privileges. So you haven't earned the right to quit. Now I want to challenge you this morning. I know you see all these memes or memes, or I don't know what they're called, about people and their tax money. I want to challenge you to prepare for your future. Now, what I mean by prepare for your future, I don't know what you want to do. I'm going to try to give you this stuff layered. And some of us take the position to make fun of folks who get tax money. Now, I'm going to say this, so I'll make it even keel. If you receive a tax return, that means that your income is not at a certain amount that you pay taxes, or you don't pay a large amount of taxes. And so for some people, they'll get, ego and say, well, I don't get a tax return. Well, as a lawyer, and I know other businesses, car dealerships, restaurants, all that, we too enjoy tax time not for the same reason. We don't get a return, but we do benefit from the spending. So tax time is good for all of us. I mean, I'm not gonna say that. Now, I'll tell you what I've done every few years, and then I'll challenge you to do something different. The last few years, I can tell you that I have 5 TVs in my house. I have 1 TV in my office. I only bought 1 at retail. The rest of the TVs that I bought from clients who overspent during tax time and then needed to give me TVs and other property to pay their legal bill. So what I would challenge you to do as you get tax money is put some to the side. I would say take 20% and put it to the side for a rainy day, because the rainy days will come. The second thing I would suggest is this. A lot of times we're not successful in life because we're unprepared. And we're unprepared because we have a lack of knowledge. Let me give you an example. A decent pair of, or not decent pair, let me say it differently. If you go out and you buy a brand new pair of Jordans, those Jordans cost $200 or more. To get your children a passport costs under $100. So you can say to your child who won't understand, I understand that, you can say to your child, I'm not going to buy you this pair of Jordans, but I'm going to give you this opportunity to see something outside of where you've come from. I'm going to buy you a passport. And that in and of itself will start to change your children's dynamic. If you don't have one, buy yourself one too. It costs a little bit over $100, but it's probably cheaper than a lot of the stuff that people are buying for Valentine's Day. And if you really love her, brother, buy her a passport and show her part of the world. Sis, you single and you by yourself and you trying to make it happen, hey, look, go buy your own passport and go see the world yourself. You might change your whole worldview. I'll tell you, with my children, I literally got passports and started to travel to change their worldview, and ended up changing my own. Ended up seeing things in the world that I had I guess beforehand thought I would see. I weeped. I guess I'm a crybaby in Italy because I met an African brother. And he's telling me where he's from, and then he turned to me and asked me where I was from, and I had to respond to him I didn't know. And so I guess I need to do that DNA test to determine where I'm from in Africa, because my African brothers want to know. All right, so that's all I have for those particular points. Let me get into preparation. When you are working on something, a business, and I'm trying to make it layered because I know some of my friends are just starting a business, some of my friends are finding their way in business, and some of my friends are at the epitome of business. So I'm gonna try to make this a layered approach. When you're looking at business or you're looking at being successful, a lot of times we just jump into the water and say, you know what, sink or swim. And that's a good way to do it, because a lot of times we do not have the strength or conviction to try it. We could talk about, I want to start this business, but a lot of times we don't try. And so the boldest of us will jump off the cliff and say, you know what, sink or swim. And that's a beautiful thing. But I'm going to challenge you. Do some research on where you are and where you're trying to go. I've run into friends who have tried their hand in business. They never studied business and their business failed. Now, they're not alone. I studied business and my first 3 businesses were not successful as my law practice. It is what it is. Most people fail in business the first 2 or 3 times out for nothing other than their learning. Also, I had a debate with friends about black business versus white business, and one of the things they said is all business is the same. Well, that's not true. A lot of times when white businesses start, unless they're starting from the ground up, they have what they call capitalization. Capitalization is they get a loan from somebody to give them some money to get started. Whereas in black business, we start with what we have. We put what we call sweat equity into it. And a lot of times we fail because instead of us putting the sweat equity, which means the money that we make, we reinvest it into the company. We take what little profit there is to live off of, and eventually we don't have enough money to keep the business going or pay our taxes or whatever, and the business fails. So if you're starting a business, I would suggest that you study business. Even if you study business people, find out some things that they didn't think they needed to know in the beginning that is very critical at their point in business today, because that may help you when you start. For those who are in middle of business, they're saying, I have reached capacity in what I do. I have a friend of mine, she owns a cleaning business, and she has gotten to the point where her and her partner clean houses almost daily. And it's a beautiful thing, because she went from, it's an idea I want to do but don't know if I'll be successful, to now I have a lot of houses. She told me, I asked her yesterday, and I asked a lot of business people these questions, because if you're in business, you ought to start thinking a certain way. I asked her, I said, how many houses can you do before you're at capacity? And she told me that she was at a point where she could only do 5 more houses. I said, now, is that enough money to live off of? And she said, no. I said, well, then you have to figure out how to expand your business by bringing in other people, but by keeping the same quality of product. With that being said, if you're in business and you're reaching your capacity, then you have to figure out how to expand your business with bringing in people, but not dropping the quality. For lawyers, what we do is we hire another lawyer, we hire another law clerk, we hire somebody who can do the middle management of work. For a cleaning business, it might be bringing in another person to clean. For a hair salon, it may be bringing in someone and having them sign to a 2-year contract. Whatever. You have to learn how to expand your business without expanding yourself if you're at capacity, because once you're at capacity, you cannot dig in anymore. And if you're at the height of business where your business is functioning, then I challenge you to do something else. Prepare the next generation so that they can step in your shoes when you decide to cash out and retire. Preparation, a lot of times, is about getting ready for an opportunity that will present itself at some point in the future. I have won some major cases this year, and my assistant and my children asked me a question and said, Daddy, you just won, or Jimmy, you just won a case. Why are you reading like you're getting prepared for a case? And my response to them was, I'm getting ready for the next case. Not necessarily the next case right before me, but the next case where this issue may come up again and I need to perfect my argument. I did a Motivational Monday, my preparation, part 1. I did that, and maybe 3 days later, I spoke at Shorter College, and my children watched me go over and over and over again my speech, because I didn't like it from the Monday motivation. I didn't like it. I liked the content, but I didn't like my presentation. So what I did is I worked on how I presented the material. And when I did it again, if you go to my my videos, you'll see I did Monday motivation, and then I did almost identical lecture, but I did the identical lecture 3 days later, and I think personally it was better the second time around. And so oftentimes we have to just dig in and go the extra mile to prepare for the greatness that's within us. And then we need to prepare somebody else. You are a selfish business person, selfish lawyer, selfish doctor, selfish professor, selfish whomever, if you don't prepare the next generation to step in your shoes. You will not be here indefinitely. So I will say that, and I'll end with this. I always like to end with something that will stay on your mind, kind of a saying. Number one, you've been great up to this point, but yesterday's home runs won't win today's game. You have to continue to prepare for the greatness that's within you, because you don't know how great you can be. And if you are as great as you can be, prepare somebody else. I saw on the news, this young man said he wants to change the world and needs a mentor. Now I'm wondering how long it's going to take for one of us to step up and say, you know what? Out of all the stuff I'm buying and out of all the stuff I'm copying and showing how great I am I going to show how great I am by teaching this young man what he needs to know in life? I'm just waiting to see how quickly that happens. And he's not the only one. There's so many young men in our community that we're going to complain about 5-10 years from now, but we can do something right now to change their dynamic. So the question is, what will you do? To whom much is given, much is required. And what we did yesterday won't help us today. Thank you for listening. May God bless you. Once again, it's your lawyer's favorite lawyer, Jimmy Morris, Mr. Not Guilty. And I'll see you when I see you.